Hello, thank you for listening. I am Frank, host of Reid on the Record podcast. We're going to be jumping into the episode, an interview between me and Dan, where we are talking about issues of Miranda that are raised during the interview or during the interrogation. I just wanted to let you know that we ran into a slight audio recording issue on Dan's side of things. There is a slight echo about 5 minutes into the interview. I would like all of our listeners and viewers to know that I have resolved this issue and we will not be having this issue on any further episodes that we are releasing. If you have enjoyed this show, please like and subscribe, and more importantly, share it with a friend. Thank you, and now let's get to the episode. Right.
Yeah.
Shout out to my class last year, the seminar in Boston. It was absolutely wonderful. Great attendees, wonderful questions for us as well, Dan. They asked great questions in the seminar.
Terrific.
It's really fun to go into a seminar with seasoned investigators, seasoned first responders. There were firefighters there as well. Not blocking any lanes of traffic, but if you're a first responder, I think you get
Yeah.
it. But,
Yeah.
all
That's
right.
great, Frank.
And Dan, do you know what? I was asked a question, and I believe you've been asked this question as well. How about that?
Okay.
It's hey, Frank or Dan, I'm doing an interview with someone, and halfway through the interview, the person says, "Do I need a lawyer?" How would you respond to that? But before we hear your answer, before we hear the answer, Dan, I just would like to remind our viewers and listeners that you can check out Reid on the Record. We are on Apple, we are on Spotify, as well as where all your major podcasting platforms are hosted. But I would encourage all the listeners to check out our YouTube channel. You can type in Reid on the Record, REID on the Record in YouTube, and our channel is now beginning to pick up a little bit, so you should find us in the algorithm. Me and Dan, we produce a lot of extra content on the YouTube channel that doesn't get put out over the podcast. The podcast is going to be our weekly release, and we really appreciate everyone who has listened to us and subscribed. But we are really trying to focus a lot of our growth right now towards the YouTube channel. So like and subscribe, leave a comment, but more importantly, share this video with a friend if you're on YouTube.
Right. And ask your
I got
questions.
that out of
We
the way.
want questions. Yeah.
Exactly. Send us your questions. We appreciate the comments. People are starting to comment, especially on the shorts. I made a short video for patrol officers. I said, officer safety withstanding, you don't have to tell a suspect to take their hands out of their pocket if you've already patted them down. Now, I always said, don't do this if there's any kind of safety issues at all. That short produced a lot of interesting comments in there from patrol officers. But if you watch the video, you know. Me and Dan will be doing more specials on patrol officers' response using the Reid technique. But Dan,
Excellent.
way back in 2013, I'm going to tell you a story, okay?
All right.
There was a little investigator named Investigator Shumpert at Kershaw County Sheriff's Department in South Carolina. This is back when I was only, I was only this tall, real short
That's
person, right?
that's my height. Hey.
That's my height. There's Dan.
Yeah.
But I was interviewing a suspect. He leans across the table and he looks at me and he says, "Do I need a lawyer? Should I get a lawyer?" And I didn't really know how to respond to him. And I looked at him and said, "I don't know." And after that, we just kind of went on. But that always bugged me. And I began to get comments like that in my interviews. And I'm sure you, with some of your interviews, you've kind of gotten the same thing.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts? What's your feedback on this?
Okay. My response to something like that, whether or not they've been given Miranda or not, if they bring that up, they're not really asking for a lawyer. And I think the perfect response would be is that I can't offer you any advice. That is up to you if you want a lawyer. But I think it's important that we talk about this thing so we can see if we can get this resolved.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, we haven't denied it. We just, and they haven't asked. Obviously, if they say, you know what, I think I want my lawyer, then immediately you stop.
100%. Yes.
Okay. But just because they talk about the lawyer it doesn't mean you have to stop. And I think it's important, too, that when they say that, do you think I need a lawyer? Well, I can't offer you any advice. That's up to you to decide if you want a lawyer or not. If it was me, I would not follow that up with saying, "Do you want a lawyer?" You don't have
Exactly.
to,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
and because if you do that, maybe they will say, "Yeah, I want a lawyer," but they can invoke a lawyer at any time.
And a little bit of insight I would like to provide from, the interviews that I've conducted using the
Hmm.
Reid technique is this. When they make these kind of comments, when the subject says, "Do I need a lawyer? Should I be talking to you? Should I XYZ?" A couple of observations. It's never right after I read them out their Miranda rights. It's always 20 minutes into the interview. I've asked the second chance, I've asked a bait question, investigative results, the objection question, or the alibi question. And I've noticed that they seem to ask that when there's a spike in nervousness and anxiety created by one of our questions.
Hmm.
Excuse me. And I've come to look at these I've kind of looked at, do I need a lawyer? Is there's two types of those questions. There's honestly people asking that question, and they very rarely ask it in the middle of the interview. If it's popping up during the middle of the interview, I kind of lean toward this is a countermeasure to stop the questioning. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a lot of now. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't read what's in their mind. I can only go on what I'm observing in there. But the people who ask, "Do I need a lawyer?" up front, those are the ones normally I'll spend a little bit of time with just to make sure that they emphatically understand their Miranda rights. And this
And
isn't a trick to get around Miranda or anything like that.
no,
But
but we're not there to give them legal advice either.
yes, I mean, and you can't provide them legal advice as an officer or HR
Right.
person, private investigator, whatever you happen to fall into
And
anyway.
I think also, you don't have to add this, but sometimes saying to the person, look, I can't answer that question. That's up to you if you want a lawyer or not. Uh, and look, Frank, you're free to go. And I'm not holding you here if it's non-custodial provided.
Hmm.
I'm not holding you here, so you can say, we don't want to talk to me. You don't want to talk to me.
Hmm.
But I think it's important that we find out your side of the story, your information, the questions I'm asking you about this issue to see if we can resolve it.
Exactly, yes. And I would like to add too, is that, and this is something that I like to go over with a bunch of, of the attendees at our seminars is this. Instead of getting vapor locked in the interview or the interrogation with some of these questions, write down questions that have stumped you or have caused you anxiety as a questioner and come up beforehand with pithy, very quick responses to them that works well for you. Because you don't want to be in an interview and you're saying, "Oh man, I hope this person doesn't ask, do I need a lawyer? What am I going to do?" Before
That's
you
great
go in there,
advice. Yeah.
yeah, and something else is rehearse delivering it. Rehearse delivering it, right? Imagine the person is in front of you, or get your partner to pretend to be a suspect and they say, "Do I need a lawyer?" Practice delivering that. Have the delivery down. Your timing, your pacing. You need to come across as confident. Uh, one thing that I learned, Dan, when I was shadowing you, when I shadowed some of the other instructors out there, was, hey, um, if you're doing a behavioral symptom analysis on them, they're doing it on you, only they can't articulate it. So
Right.
practice the delivery over and over until it's muscle memory. Like if you take your gun out of the holster, your finger is always outside of the trigger. Whenever you naturally go into a shooter's stance, you're just going to naturally move without having to think of it. And for rapport building, trust, respect, and likability, you earn their respect when you shut down these types of really countermeasures. If somebody wants a
Right.
lawyer, at any
They're
time
going to
they
ask
can
for it.
say, "Yeah, hey, I'm not going to answer any more questions. I want a lawyer. Goodbye, Jack."
We're
I
done.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you are absolutely done 100%. And we here at John Reed and Associates, we don't play around in the gray area, right, Dan? When it comes to
No.
Miranda, absolutely
No.
not.
We're not lying to them in that. And another thing too, and something you just said, Frank, too, is that a lot of times we have an idea. People ask for Miranda, I think more so when you just walk in that room and say, "Here, Frank, I'm here today. I've given you your Miranda, um, and I'm here today to talk to you about that homicide." And what they start doing is now laying out the information that the investigator has that indicates that they did it.
Yes, yes. Be
I
very,
got,
yeah, yeah.
Frank, I got three eyewitnesses that say they saw you with this individual. I got I got you telling so and so you did this, but they haven't even interviewed the person first about it.
Yes, yes.
And that interview is really helping develop that rapport that will end up helping you in the interrogation by having that person less hostile and less chances of them asking, I don't want to talk to you, I want to leave.
I have a couple of observations about that, Dan, that I'd like to bring up what you just said.
Hmm.
Do you remember a couple episodes ago when I was asking you what the old days were like at John Reed and Associates? And
I
what
think
was it?
so, yeah.
You said that John Reed would go to the office someday. He'd have all the investigators around, and he would say, "Hey, uh, sure, we have success, but we learn more from failure than we do success." And he did something that not a lot of people did. Critically viewed,
The younger
the recordings. Yeah.
the younger investigators, myself included, starting out at Reed's, you were roasted every week by that.
And
John,
here's,
you're
yeah.
dealing with
Hmm.
people that are there 10 years, 20 years. John Reed himself, and he'd sit
Hmm.
back and say, Dan, I'm sure he did a lot of good things. People would laugh. And then he'd say, but we're not here to talk about the good things. We're here to see what areas he can improve in. And then they would play the
Yes.
video, everyone would take notes, and then you would sit there and have
Hmm.
to accept the criticism. But the criticism wasn't
Yeah.
easy at that time,
Hmm.
but it
And
was
here's
insightful.
and
It was,
here's yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And here's the work culture that's created by doing that. And this is where a lot of law enforcement is lacking. I say that as former law enforcement. I'm still networked in. I understand it. Is they will become a victim of their own success. The
yeah,
example that you gave of going in there, just confronting the person with evidence, they do that because they've had a couple of home runs.
right.
They've had two or three confessions. And what happens is that all they remember are their home runs. And they don't
Yep.
remember the 20 times they walked in there and that tactic doesn't work. And so,
I know the investigator's
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
take the approach that if I
Hmm.
explain everything going against this person, that they'll look at it, they'll see how bad it is for them, and then confess. But what reason does that individual have to admit guilt? What is the
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
upside for them in their mind?
Hmm.
Okay, you got me. Okay, I don't want to be punished for what I did. I'm probably going to be punished, but what is the upside? What is the good going to come out of this if I tell you I did it? I see no way that people will ever understand maybe why I did this. There are a lot of people
Exactly.
that just
Yes,
commit
yes.
crimes that are just cold-blooded individuals. They have no remorse for people. They enjoy what they do. They're not sorry about what they did. But a lot of people we deal with realize they did screw up, okay? And now how can I make this position better for myself?
Not only that, then,
You can't
yeah,
say
yeah.
to them,
Hmm.
I'm here to make it better. I want to make it better for you. You never say I'm here to make it better for you.
Not only that, but you bring up a real good point. The Reed technique works with people who may be a little bit remorseful over what they did, but it also works damn good on people with sociopathic tendencies.
Yep.
Because suppose I have a theme on someone and they feel no regret. It really was planned out. It wasn't spur of the moment, right? They really wanted to hurt someone and they got gratification. A lot of the sociopaths during interrogation, when you lay out a theme development, plan versus unplanned, spur of the moment, or being remorseful and sorry, they'll look at you and think, hey, maybe this investigator is an idiot and they
Right.
haven't figured out that I planned it out. So I'm going to take this side of the alternative question so they don't discover everything else I did. And they will
Exactly.
actually walk into a trap during the interrogation like that. Pride before the fall is what it is. So if they're remorseful, it works real good. If they're not remorseful, they lack empathy. They, the what is it, the dark personality triad? I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
If they have those psychotropic, those characteristics and those traits, what we teach is going to work on them as well because they think that they're outsmarting you.
And
And you
many
can
times,
actually shift an inflexible to a flexible person like that.
right. And, they're thinking, well, if I say this, if I say, I'm not sorry about what I did, I'm glad I did it. But if I do say I'm sorry, maybe that'll maybe work in my favor. I'm gonna
Exactly. That's
say
right.
that, but I'm not
Yes.
sorry
Yes.
about it.
Hmm. That's right.
Well, legally, it doesn't make any difference, but in their perception, they're thinking it does.
100%. And what you'll find is that it's kind of like eraser gestures, personal grooming gestures, is that it's when they do this is what matters. Timing is everything, context is everything. If they're dry coughing but only doing it during the the hard questions, that could be an
Right.
indication of high anxiety. The same
Right.
thing with these questions about a lawyer. Okay, it's when they feel their back it's never when they think they're winning. It's never when they think that they've got one up on the investigator. Do I
Right.
need a lawyer? It's a countermeasure, is what it is. It's a countermeasure, and my pat response when I was doing a lot of these, and I had requested, hey Frank, do I need a lawyer? My pat response was always, hey, I'm not a lawyer. That's not my job. My job is to discover the truth. That's why I'm talking to you now. As I said before, where were you last Friday? And I just go right back
Right.
into it. The key thing you said is don't ask them, well, do you want a lawyer? Do you want a lawyer? And you have no need to read them out Miranda again. I mean, if you did it in the beginning, they waived their Miranda rights, move on. Oh, and
Exactly.
something else is don't, if they waive their Miranda rights, like those big stupid forms a lot of these law enforcement agencies have you read
Yeah.
that's totally
Yeah.
unnecessary, don't leave it on the table where they can see it. Don't make the Frank
Oh,
Shumpert
good
mistake.
point.
Reminders of consequences.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's the thing too that going back to a little bit more of the factual approach, by explaining everything you got going against them, it is
mhm.
reminding them, I think, of the consequences, the severe
It really
consequences
is.
they
Yeah, it
face
really is.
for their crime. They're
Hmm.
thinking, nobody's going to ever understand. And
And
they
something
have to
else
have
is
that
that,
ray of
yeah,
hope.
yeah. And something else is that if you just walk into a room and you start talking about a bunch of evidence, to me it seems like the courts are starting to look askance at exaggerations of evidence. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, that's not a legal opinion, and we
No,
teach that's not your first tactic to use in there. But even if it's real evidence, if you start taking stuff out of your case file and then they confess, well, me and Dan had a whole episode that you can check out on, why evidence should be a method of last resort. Why that's not our very first approach with this, but
right.
hey, if
I
I
had
show them
a,
all the evidence in my
yeah,
case file and the only details they give me is what I showed them, I mean, now I get dependent and independent evidence. There's a distinction in there, but hey, why play on thin ice? I mean,
you
why
don't
play
have
on it?
to.
So,
You don't
yeah,
have to. Yeah,
exactly.
right. Okay. So, uh, that being said, is there anything else that, oh, one other thing I did want to say. I
Yeah.
was, happened to be watching an interrogation a while back, and the investigator had a good reputation of getting a lot of confessions from people, but I was really shocked at listening to his approach to the subject by saying it was a homicide, saying to him, "Look, it's important you tell me what you did, so when we go to court, that jury will understand what you did. But if you just sit there and say nothing, you're facing, the death penalty in this, and you're going to be sentenced to the death penalty. They're going to put a needle in your arm. But even before that, you're going to be sitting on death row for 12 years before that's happening, and nobody's going to really care." Uh, and I thought, geez, what a stupid thing to say
Hmm.
to a subject. I mean, you're bordering on the idea of not even bordering. I think it is a threat. That if you don't tell me, this is you're gonna get the death
Yeah,
penalty.
yeah.
And you got to be so
Hmm.
careful in staying away from consequences with people. It
So,
just works very
yeah.
negative.
My initial response is I would not want to be that interrogator being cross-examined on the stand. That is not a fun place to be like that. Imagine if that interrogator, I don't know if it's a he or she, let's assuming he,
Yeah,
but if he took the stand and he had to defend that, what is he going to say? It's
right.
one thing to be a Billy Badass in the interrogation. It's quite another thing, friends, colleagues, and professionals, to be on the stand having a defense attorney ripping you a new one because you were in here using a tactic like that. I would be very careful. But
And
something
I,
else I'd be very curious about,
yeah,
let me finish this up real
yeah, yeah.
quick, but have you heard of the invisible graveyard?
No, no.
Invisible graveyard is this, okay? Excuse me, it comes from a philosopher of ancient Rome. And the story goes like that. It may have been Pliny the Younger, I think, although I'd have to check my philosophy. And there was a shipwreck, okay? And there was a bunch of survivors, okay? And when they were there, they were helping all the survivors. And the Roman emperor said, "Hey, I don't think the shipwreck was this bad because we had hundreds and hundreds of survivors out here." But then Pliny the Younger said, "Well, we actually don't know how bad this is because if there were any fatalities, we had no way of recovering their bodies. Sure, we have hundreds of survivors, but what if there were thousands of people on the ship that crashed on the shore? We would never know that." And that's in philosophy a concept known as the invisible graveyard syndrome. And what you're going to find if you watch these so-called interrogation experts on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, they're showing you their home runs. You're not seeing the misses. There could be an entire invisible graveyard of failure to get a confession or a substantiated confession that we'll never know about as the viewers because they're not going to show that. So if you watch
Right,
these videos, invisible graveyard syndrome is something that's always there.
I
And
never heard that
and
before. That's
well,
great.
going back to what John Reid did originally by reviewing failure, it guards
Hmm.
against the invisible graveyard. You don't become a victim of your own success where you can discard your failure and never improve. That's why self-improvement, colleagues being able to come back and forth to you. I mean, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect.
Right.
But the invisible graveyard has a way of being active in your professional life in ways that you don't really realize. But that was just a little bit of thought about that.
That's excellent. Excellent, Frank. I give
Thank
you
you.
credit. You thought of it all by yourself. Wow.
I didn't think of it. I think Pliny the Younger or the Elder, I don't know which one of them came up with that. It may have been Cicero. Gosh, I'm sorry. My brain, I don't have enough coffee right now. But I will say that, as a humanities major, that's what we read. But in
Yeah.
fact, I've known a lot of cops. They were history majors, philosophy, English,
Hmm.
sociology, humanities. I mean, really,
Yeah.
really cool stuff. Art studies, even music. They have a very unique perspective in the world, I think. I'd
I,
like to see more humanities become police officers.
I think so. It's you got to be a people person.
Well rounded, well rounded. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Closing thoughts, Dan?
Um, just keep listening, and again, I really want more questions, and we're going to be addressing some other things about promises and threats in future
Yes.
episodes that you got to be guarding against what you're saying. So especially since a lot of your interrogations are now videoed, you don't want to be chewed up on the stand about, even though you have a valid confession, now making you out to be the bad person about these promises and threats.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes.
And I think that's, we're going to talk about areas to stay away from. Even though maybe technically it's not a threat, not a promise, it could still influence other people to think that you are, and you want to avoid that.
Exactly. Yes, yes. Well, okay,
Okay?
Dan, I've really
That's
enjoyed
my
this.
words of wisdom for
Your
today.
words of wisdom. I like it. Words of
Yeah,
wisdom with Dan.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Frank.
All right, then. Well, I will talk to you later, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Frank. Have a good day. Okay.